Kanse. I'm Kristen Ashkate. Welcome to APTN National News Daytime. Thank you for joining us. Some breaking news out of Manitoba this morning. The man who went to prison for killing 2 First Nation women back in 2011 is getting out of jail. With the details, here's TR Wheatley and a warning: some of the details may be alarming for some.
In November 2013, Sean Cameron Lamb was sentenced to 20 years after pleading guilty to killing 2 women, 18-year-old Lorna Blacksmith from Pimichikamak Cree Nation and 25-year-old Carolyn Sinclair from Pucketawagan. He was also charged in connection with the death of 31-year-old Tanya Jane Nepanak, but those charges were stayed due to lack of evidence. He is now being released on a statutory release. The parole board has imposed a number of conditions on Lamb, including that he reside at a designated community-based residential facility or psychiatric facility approved by the Correctional Service of Canada for 6 months. Lamb must also not consume drugs or alcohol for the duration of his release. He must immediately report all sexual and non-sexual relationships and friendships. Lamb must also not associate or communicate with any person he knows or has reason to believe is involved in criminal activity. Parts of Lamb's release plan have been blacked out. It says Lamb plans to reside in transition housing and receive assistance, and that he has an offer of accommodation with a contact he has maintained for a number of years. However, the location and the contact has been blacked out. According to the Parole Board of Canada, Lamb is a status First Nations man from the Amjanong First Nation in Ontario. He was apprehended by Children's Aid as part of the 60 Scoop and as an infant, and eventually adopted into a Caucasian foster family. I'll have more reaction from some of the community for you at 6 p.m. Eastern. TR Wheatley, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The Anishinaabe Nation, a political organization that represents 39 First Nations in Ontario, has renewed its state of emergency declaration today, stating that there is an escalation in its ongoing public safety crisis across all of its nations. And they say that the Carney government's Canada Strong 2025 budget failed to allocate new dedicated funding for First Nations police services. The Anishinaabe Nation says crime conditions are worsening and the need for more equitable funding for police and First Nations is more crucial than ever. They include widespread drug trafficking and organized crime, a rise in violence and threats targeting community members, elders, and youth, chronic underfunding of police services in First Nations, and a growing mental health and addictions emergency. They say both the federal and provincial governments are neglecting their fiduciary constitutional responsibilities to ensure safe communities in Ontario. In a statement, Anishinaabe Grand Council Chief Linda DeBassage said, "Our Anishinaabe citizens are not second-class citizens. They deserve the same level of safety and security as every other person in Canada. The federal and provincial governments must address the existing systemic barriers and discriminatory practices that continue to hinder the safety and well-being of our citizens." Alberta's provincial court has taken steps to change the way it serves Indigenous people through incorporating more culturally appropriate components. A new Indigenous courtroom recently opened in Lethbridge, the first of its kind in southern Alberta. CTV's Carson Marzik reports.
Having Indigenous court open up in Lethbridge is a dream for many people in this area.
Inside the Lethbridge Courthouse is a renovated courtroom to serve as the city's first Indigenous court. The different approach to justice incorporates tradition, culture, and Indigenous ways.
It focuses on restorative justice, trying to make the offender heal, trying to make them well, and at the same time serving the community they're from and the victims that they've transgressed.
With input from local elders, knowledge keepers, and other Indigenous organizations, the court reflects ongoing collaboration to address the unique needs of Indigenous individuals involved in the justice system.
It's really about self-determination and helping our people understand their own lives and the historic trauma impacts in their own lives. And once people understand that and they are offered help, they want to change.
The new courtroom features an oval-shaped table where the judge and both parties will sit around to come to a resolution. As of 2024, 42% of people incarcerated in Alberta were Indigenous people. Those wanting to go through the court will have to apply.
Our experience is that it becomes a bit of an avalanche. That people hear about it, they see the need for it, They see the good that it does, how it can change people and people's lives. And we fully expect that we'll move from Monday afternoons every second week to full-day Mondays to perhaps court every week.
Indigenous courts have been established in Calgary, Edmonton, and St. Paul.
I really anticipate that we're going to see large numbers of Indigenous people go through Indigenous court, never to return.
Kars Marsuk, CTV News, Lethbridge.
A group of Indigenous children recently got to go on a surprise trip to Disney World. We'll tell you why when we come back. Welcome back. Since 2022, the City of Regina has given youth under the age of 14 free access to public transit. Now, a Cowsas First Nation artist has teamed up with a local group combining art and advocacy to promote the idea of free public transit for youth 18 and under. CTV's Mick Favo reports.
The lights of a city bus shining bright, turning the nighttime into daytime. It's the latest mural concept brought to life by up-and-coming artist Jada Delorme. Located near downtown Regina, Delorme says onlookers may recognize a familiar landscape.
In my art, I always include the land of the living skies, hence why the sky is so bright and colorful. I include water in my own art style to beautify wherever my art ends up, because that's what we're celebrating is our connection to our land.
The mural was created in collaboration with Better Bus Youth, an advocacy group seeking to make public transportation free for all youth in Regina.
I just hope that we can get up to a level where our land is not so polluted, so that we see beautiful murals like this more often, have more of an inclusive community here in the city, and have more chances to show them how loud our voices can really become.
The idea of free transportation for Regina youth is catching on in the city.
And we really as a community want to enhance transit and public transportation in our community. And so we're really thrilled as the Salvation Army to be able to lend a wall to this project and beautify our neighborhood and be part of something really exciting.
This is the second mural collaboration between Delorme and Better Bus Youth. In 2023, the duo created this mural in downtown Regina, depicting passengers taking in some Saskatchewan scenery. The new mural can be found at the back of the Salvation Army Men's Shelter. It took 3 weeks to create with the help of 10 volunteers, including residents who live in the building.
They connected to it. They connected to the colors, they connected to my art style, they connected to me, and it was beautiful because I feel like lots of the time people forget that they're people too, and it was just beautiful being able to connect with everybody.
Both murals were funded by the David Suzuki Foundation in an effort to keep the conversation going and the wheels turning on better fare rates for youth and the hope of a greener tomorrow.
It's the most magical place on earth, and for many, a trip to Disney is something they would have never thought possible. For 8 Mohawk children from Ganawage and Akwesasne and 2 Wendat from Wendigoy, dreams became reality thanks to the Air Canada Foundation and Dreams Take Flight Montreal. APTN's Kim Sullivan was there from the day they found out and joined them on this magical adventure.
Tuesday, 4 a.m. Hundreds of children take off on a dream flight. But it was a week earlier that they found out the news. These 4 children from the Mohawk territory of Ganawage had no idea what to expect when they walked into the Air Canada hangar in Montreal. Why were they here, among fire trucks, police cars, helicopters, jets, and princesses? They were about to find out.
You know where we're going to be taking you in a couple of weeks? Disney World, Florida.
Complete shock, then excitement.
What I really want to see is the Minions.
There were some nerves in the air too, from the kids and their parents.
I'm nervous for him. I'm scared to let my baby go.
The Air Canada Foundation and Dreams Take Flight have been collaborating together for over 3 decades to help bring a little magic to deserving children with disabilities, difficulties, or from disadvantaged backgrounds, with chapters in 8 different Canadian cities. This year, the Montreal chapter gave 174 kids the opportunity to escape their daily routine for a day with a round trip to Disney World Orlando. Captain Frédéric Bélanger is involved with this dream flight since its debut.
This is the best flight I do by far from the whole year. To see 170 kids boarding the aircraft, they've got huge smiles on their face. Some of them don't even know where we're going until a couple of days ago or until today, and it just makes it a special flight, and it makes my job even better.
The non-for-profit also depends on the 135 volunteers that help make the magic happen. Most come back year after year, like Ken Borick, who's been volunteering with this flight for 25 years.
Just to see the smiles on their faces, because that's what every volunteer who works for Dreams Take Flight does this whole everything for, is the smile on their face.
These 4 little girls from the First Nation of Akwesasne can't stop smiling.
We're going to Disney!
The Akwesasne Police, Ganawage Peacekeepers, and their fire department were also there to make the day fun and support their communities.
I've been coming to this event over 15 years.
You see the looks on the children around here. It's magical. There's nothing really quite like it.
The excitement is very contagious.
Cody Daibo, Grand Chief of Ganawage, once took part in the initiative as a peacekeeper and fully understands the impact it has on the kids.
I think for them it's just going to be a lifetime of memories, remembering that they got to do it and then share that as they grow up.
With that, all that was left was to wait for departure day. Small eyes, hearts full of joy, and butterflies in their bellies. For many of them, this was their first flight. Once everyone cleared customs, the children were about to experience one of those unforgettable moments that would stay with them forever. The hours that followed were nothing short of magical. Sunshine welcomed the group as they arrived in Florida. Parades down Main Street, snacks, and a whole array of spectacular worlds, from traveling high speed through space to exploring the bayous of New Orleans with Princess Tiana and a few splashes, diving under the sea with Ariel, visiting a haunted house,
there's no turning back now,
or soaring on a flying carpet. And let's not forget meeting the one and only Mickey. A day full of laughter and delights, wrapped up in a burst of euphoria. It was now time to say goodbye to Disney World to begin our journey back home. A journey that was much quieter, at least if the snoring was ignored. And in that quiet, the magic of the trip still lingers.
It was the best day ever.
Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Disney World Orlando, and Montreal.
Great story, Kim. We now want to tell you about this week's new web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, do you think a forced 72-hour detox for methamphetamine users will help fight their addiction and the drug crisis? This is regarding the Manitoba government's announcement last week. You can answer yes, it will help, no, it won't help, or unsure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/poll to have your say. A new Indigenous children's book that explores Indigenous place names in Canada was recently released. We'll speak to Mi'kmaq author Rebecca Thomas when we come back. Me, Gwetch, for staying with us. Charlottetown 4, Halifax 6. -1 in La Grande River, Happy Valley Goose Bay 3. -1 in Saguenay in rain, Montreal 1. Ottawa 1, Toronto partly cloudy and 5. Big Trout Lake 0, Wawa 2. Norway House 1, Thompson -1. 4 in Winnipeg, Barons River 3. 0 in Saskatoon, sunny in Regina at 2. Partly cloudy in Meadow Lake at 2, La Ronge 2. Cloudy in Grande Prairie at +1, Fort McMurray -1. Sunny in Lethbridge at 17, Calgary 12. Vancouver cloudy in 11, rain in Penticton at 9. Prince Rupert 3, Smithers 0. -21 in Old Crow, -14 in Mayo. -8 in Fort Simpson, -14 in Norman Wells. -26 in Saxe Harbor, Polituck -19. -11 in Baker Lake, Chesterfield -8. And Arctic Bay -7, Iqaluit +1. Our next guest is a Mi'kmaq award-winning author from the Lennox Island First Nation in Prince Edward Island. Rebecca Thomas's new book is called Sem's Map, a children's book that highlights the importance of traditional Indigenous place names in what is today called Canada. The story focuses on a young Indigenous boy who doesn't recognize the Canadian map his teacher uses in geography class. He instead gets his grandmother to explain to his class Indigenous people's connection to the land and what each territory has been named by various Indigenous groups. The book is also illustrated by two-spirited Plains Cree artist Asby Whitecalf from North Battleford, Saskatchewan. Thomas is also a student services advisor at the Nova Scotia Community College in Halifax. We recently spoke to Rebecca Thomas earlier. Here's that interview. Rebecca Thomas, thanks so much for chatting with us. For those who haven't read the book yet, can you tell us what your new children's book, Sem's Map, is about?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Walalin, thank you for having me. Sem's Map is about a young boy named Sem, or Semisal, who is really confused. He's in class and he's looking at a map that the teacher's put up for his geography class, and none of the place names are right, and he thinks that the lines that are drawn are strange because they're not there in real life, and they don't tell you anything about the land. So he kind of raises his hand and he says to his teacher that his map is wrong, and his classmates start to kind of chuckle and laugh at him, and he's even more confused. And it's about kind of Sem standing up for what he knows about the land and the stories that he learned from his Gaju, and trying to share that knowledge with other people.
Thank you for that. That's so interesting. I read that part of the idea for this book came from you connecting with the land while you were out fishing and gathering. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up off reserve. My dad went to the Shubenacadie residential school and was kind of like never really went back home. And so with that disconnect came a lot of disconnect from, culture and experience. And when I was a little bit older, I started connecting with friends who grew up doing stuff on the land, and they brought me along with them. So I learned about like place names and like what they meant. And so here in Mi'kma'ki, we have Unama'ki, which is Land of the Fog, which is Cape Breton. And where I live is in Jabuktuk, Halifax, Great Harbor. But we would do gathering along like the Shubenacadie River or Sibeganegati, where the wild potato grows. And you start to learn that there are place names that tell you about the land and what you find when you go there. And I grew up in Moncton, which is like drainage place, right? Which is all wetlands. And so I thought that was a really wonderful thing that I started to relearn, that we as Mi'kmaq people understood the land for what was there and what it could teach you and what you could gather and learn from it. And I thought, like, what a great idea to kind of put that worldview into a kid's book.
I lived in Halifax for almost 2 years, so I remember the fog. I love it there. I actually miss the East Coast. You also got the talented Asby Whitecalf to illustrate your book, a Plains Cree artist from North Battleford, Saskatchewan. Can you tell us what it was like working with them?
Yeah, well, I mean, Asby's so talented, and with all of my kids' books, one of the really standard things that I ask for is to have an Indigenous illustrator. And so I, pour over Instagram and look for Indigenous illustrators in my publishing folks. They also have their list. And so then they brought forward Asby, and I thought their work was so beautiful. I loved their colors and how they drew faces, and it was just so vibrant. I didn't get to do a lot of interpersonal sit down and chat, but sending Asby my thoughts and feelings about what I think it should look like. And then they just transformed my words of like, show generational knowledge. And I really want like this idea, and to see the work that they created was just incredible. So I'm not an illustrator. I'm not very good at drawing or visual arts. So I think just wholly trusting the illustrators to bring it to life, because they're the experts. So ASBE was fabulous. Easy to work with, produced incredible work, and no notes. They were great.
That's beautiful. Rebecca, during this time of Truth and Reconciliation, do you think it's very important that students, including new Canadians, should learn more about the Indigenous perspective of this land?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, Canada as a country is like founded on treaty relationship with Indigenous peoples and the Crown, right? Like, our understanding of like what the land is and how it keeps us alive. Like in Mi'kmaq, we have Nedigalimp, like this notion of like avoiding scarcity, so only using what you need, and like understanding how we want to make sure that this is here for the generations that come after us. Like, I think that's an incredibly important thing for both Canadians and new Canadians in this kind of world of like take, to see that maybe if we saw the land as like a part of us and we a part of the land, that maybe we could slow down that take and maybe be comfortable with like enough. Do you know what I mean?
Top way, yeah. No, I totally get where you're going. Finally, Rebecca, where can our viewers pick up your book or buy it for their loved ones for this Christmas?
Anywhere really that books are sold. You can look for some like local stuff. I know my publisher Nimbus, you can buy directly from them. I'm in like Chapters and on Amazon and stuff, but if you can get into like some of the local stores here on the East Coast, that's like Woozles and like some kid shops, but truly anywhere that books are sold. Yeah, and if you folks get my book, I'd be eternally grateful. Like, you don't have to, but it's just like, I just think it's really neat that these stories are getting out there, right? And the kids' books that I needed when I was a kid. So, yeah, there you go.
I think we should all get out there and support our Indigenous authors. That's
Yes.
award-winning Mi'kmaq author Rebecca Thomas. Rebecca, thanks so much, and please come back on the show again anytime.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'll come whenever I'm invited.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Wednesday, November 12th. We're back again for your evening newscast in a few hours. Please join us then. From our HQ in downtown Winnipeg, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again.